What's going on YouTube? This is Rybo at the bench, and today I have a really exciting, fun, a little bit different cut or carry knife review. Today looking at the Reeve Sebenza 21. This is the large, and then we have the small version. So, my general price point, my kind of wheelhouse is more in the $20 to $100, $150 range. That's kind of where I tend to be. But thanks to some incredibly generous, friends of the channel, I guess, some guys that I've met through the knife community, I was able to get both of these in for review. So you know who you are. Thank you so much. This is incredible to be able to look at both of these at the same time, and I'm very, very thankful for that. Very grateful for all the support and just the chance to check these out. So I really know nothing about Reeves. I know nothing about the knives getting into this $300, $400, $500 range. So this is going to be kind of a a cheap guy's take on Reeve, and hopefully that'll be helpful to some people. I'm sure I'll miss some details. I'm sure I'll miss some things, but you can always scroll down to the comments, and I'm sure people will light me up for that. But really, I couldn't decide what to do because, I could have done a review of both of these individually, or I could have done a head-to-head. And honestly, it's the same knife. It's just one's bigger, one's smaller. So a head-to-head doesn't really make any sense. And individual reviews, there's just not much different about these to really justify that. So I thought, let me just do a review of the Sebenza in general and kind of tell you my thoughts and observations after carrying it for a while. All right, so let's do some quick size checks just so you get an idea of kind of where these are. So 2.92 inches sharpened blade length on the small and 3.5 on the large. In the pocket, you're looking at about 4 inches on the small and about 4.8 on the large. And then the thickness, 0.45, which is fantastic thickness on the large, and 0.39 on the small. So like I said, just kind of a scaled down version of each other. And let me go ahead and do weight check as well, just so you'll have that data point. So on the large, you're looking at 4.7, and on the small you have 2.8, so right under 3 ounces, which is nice. All right, so let's see. The Sebenza. I guess let me do a quick close-up of the Sebenza for you. So titanium frame lock, obviously. Reeve is a, I don't know, call him a visionary or whatnot, but he invented the frame lock, I believe, as well as some other things, and definitely an icon in the knife world. And so this is kind of a, this knife itself is kind of an icon in the knife world. So just a beautiful, very basic, very simple, USA made titanium frame lock. S35VN, which I believe he also had a hand in making, although I don't believe that is marked anywhere on the blade. Thumb stud action. You have a nice hollow grind here. Here's the small version. Some jimping up top there. And you can see this is basically just the same as the other one. But some really nice details, and we'll talk about that. Alrighty, things that I like. So number one, the ergonomics on these are very good. So you can see this knife has a very iconic profile, especially when closed. It has this kind of, I actually have no idea what you call this, but you have this kind of, it kind of comes in and goes back out, and you have this very, very nice handle. Not really anything fancy to it, but it feels really good in the hand, and actually the clip kind of disappears in my hand. I don't really notice many hot spots, maybe one kind of right here on the butt on the large version, but you have some details like this jimping up here, which I think is just about perfect jimping. It feels really, really nice. It's a good kind of transition from the titanium to the blade here. Very, very nice. It's contour. It's the edges are done very, very well and kind of softened. So overall, just really, really nice. My hand doesn't feel like it's forced anywhere. Even on the small, which is a good bit smaller, it feels very comfortable. And in some ways, it feels a little bit more comfortable because I don't have that butt, kind of hitting into my hand. Obviously, you can't get all fingers completely on there, but this feels really good for a small knife. especially one that doesn't have kind of the, Spyderco cheat finger choil up here to give you that, ergonomic feel. This one feels really good for what it is. So the ergonomics on this are really, really nice. And I noticed that, with both of these. Plus you have a very nice texture. The Chris Reeves kind of break in from what I've heard, and I can tell a difference between the texture on these two. I would guess that this is the newer one because this has a little bit of a rougher texture. This one's a little bit more broken in. But I think both of the textures on these, the kind of bead blasting is done very, very well. It gives it enough texture to where I don't feel like I'm slipping all over the place, but it's not uncomfortable, and I think it looks really nice as well. The blade on these guys. So I really like the blade as well. So the hollow ground blade, and there are a lot of details, and I'll talk about those, and really I don't know a ton about those later, to be able to speak to them, but based on some just very basic research I've done, that there are some really cool things that they do with their hollow grinds, and really even with kind of where the blade comes around, maintaining the thickness on the grind as it comes around just to add some strength. But I can really just speak to my experience, which is I did some tests with this box cutting, just cardboard boxes, and it's an excellent, excellent slicer. I just went to town. It tracks very well, and it slices really, really well. And so it's got just a very nice grind on it. Just a good, useful, no-nonsense blade. I mean, you can see that this guy's been put through some things before, and I love to see that on a knife like this. A knife like this, I said I think the same thing about the Spidey Chef, but it's made to use, and it's always an awesome thing to see when a knife like this is used. Other things that I like, the jimping. So, it doesn't have a lot of jimping on the knife, but up here is just perfect. It's actually one of the first details that I noticed. I think it is really, really excellent. A lot of times knives have issues where they lack a kind of a transition from the handle to the blade. I think that this does a very, very nice transition. It gives you a place to put your thumb, and the jimping is, very, very thin in there, and it's enough to where it gives you a really good grip without being uncomfortable. I would call this perfect. Of all of the different knives that I've tried, I think that, and it's a weird thing to say that I love, but it's like a very, very small detail that maybe people won't notice. But I think it's really, really well done. It feels really good in the hand. I feel, really locked in on the knife. That's definitely something you want if you're going to be cutting cardboard and doing kind of slicier, bigger tasks. And so that's really awesome. All right, other things that I like. The lock bar, I think it is good. Obviously it's a frame lock from Chris Reeve, so that's going to be nice. But I think it disengages very, very well. And no complaints there. You have some nice details. I always love when the relief is cut inside. I think that looks the best. I always love to see that. But one of the surprising details of this knife to me, and that's really the theme of the video, hopefully you'll see, is like when I first got these, I kind of thought, okay, it's a good knife, but the price is insane. And then as I carried it more and more, it's like, oh, well, this is a nice detail and this is a nice detail. And, you kind of add it all up and you do get somewhere. But one of the details that I was very surprised by is the pocket clip. To me, honestly, like this pocket clip does not look very nice. I don't love the way it looks. I don't really like this half bend right here. All in all, just like it's not really a sweet looking pocket clip to me, at least. But man, it works great. It is, very, I would say perfect spring tension that you have right there. It goes in the pocket absolutely flawlessly. And you have a really nice detail where that is kept right in line with the lock bar, which is really, really cool. So just little details, but the pocket clip is definitely something that I saw at first and I was like, I'm not really super impressed with that. But the more I've tried it, it's actually fantastic. It locks in really nice because of the double bead blasting of the pocket clip and the knife here, and it just really works. And I mean, what else do you really want in a pocket clip, right? So that's a really awesome detail. The tolerances is something that I really like, and this is another one of those things that's just, it was somewhat noticeable the first time that I opened the knife, but something that really I kind of got to see more and more as I played with it, and then as I did a little bit more research. But the centering on these is really good. There's no blade play, and it's very, very smooth. And in researching some of Chris Reeve, what I guess come to realize about the company is that that perfectly dialed in tolerance, that perfect centering, that glassy smoothness, that is the result of a lot of R&D. That is the result of a lot of minutia, of working on the little details until you have it just right. And as a result, you just get a very reliable, it's not a fast action or anything like that, but you get a very smooth, very reliable, solid lockup, and something that is, the centering is just really, really nice. And so that's something that I definitely noticed with both of these. It's one of those things that you don't necessarily pick up on the first time, but once you start to play around with it, once you, do some research, you kind of see the work that went into that. It's a small detail, but it's definitely something that shows the quality and attention to detail on these knives. Other things that I like, along those veins, is that right? Along that vein? I don't know, whatever the expression is. If you watch the channel, you know that English is not my specialty. But along those lines, which is I think what I was trying to say, I actually like the action. So, a lot of people talk about how, you can't really flick. I mean, although I guess I just did it. These knives aren't really made to be, flicked open. You can absolutely do it, especially with the smaller one. The larger one I have a little bit more trouble with. See if I can do it. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to do this on camera. But it is a just very, very smooth open. And that's, something that's kind of nice. Like, these knives are a little bit more of like traditional pocket knives to me. And there's something nice about just kind of slow rolling the open there. And that's kind of cool. I mean, it's going to be kind of probably a love it or hate it thing, but I don't know. I've come to kind of like it. It feels very classic, and so I kind of like that. I think the sizes on these are perfect, small, large. Both of these are very manageable pocket knives. I could see myself enjoying either one. I don't think this one is too small. I think it's a perfectly functional knife, and I don't think that this one is too large. I think that this one feels really good. The balance is good. I think that this is a perfectly good size knife. And I guess for frame of reference, maybe I should throw another knife on the table. Let's see. So I've got the what is this? The Sage 5 from Spyderco. So that just gives you kind of an idea of where these are. I probably should have done this at the beginning of the video. But I think the size is very good. These play very well together, and I think that this one had the chance of being too small, and I don't think it is at all. And I think that it's a very, very nice size. And then finally, just the details, right? So there's just a lot of little details that you may not notice the first time, but I love relief cut for like the logo there, and for the Idaho made. I think that is just really, really nice. You have just, a lot of the very nice details that I've already talked about. The contouring, the milling here on the titanium is just really nice. I really like this cut right here. That's really nice. I love the shape of this handle, that kind of gentle swoop. It's just a lot of little nice details. The way that this lines up, the glassy smooth action, the nice centering. It's just, nothing flashy, but, it works, and it's really nice. All right, so let's talk about things that I don't like. And honestly, there's only a couple things. So number one, really nitpicky, but this is just me. I've said this before. I am not a blue accent guy. I know that that's a thing in the knife world, and honestly, this looks better to me when it's paired with black and that kind of thing. But it's not my thing. The anodized look and stuff. It's never been my thing. Never will be. I don't think it looks terrible, but it's just I don't love it. So that's one thing that I'm just not a huge fan of. But that's just a really dumb thing to nitpick. Secondly, The thumb stud, to be honest, I mentioned I have enjoyed the action or the kind of opening this knife. That said, I don't love the thumb stud. I find it a little bit uncomfortable. I think it's a little bit pointy. Could use to be a little bit fatter. I think I don't know. It's just, to me at least, it digs in a little bit uncomfortable. And so that's kind of a little detail, but it is something that if you're not going to be flicking this knife, you're going to be pushing up against that all the time. I don't love the thumb stud. And then finally, the price, and that's really it, right? So if I remember this correctly, it's like $375, $450. Forgive me if I'm wrong there, because prices always fluctuate, but man, that is a lot of money. And then, on one hand, USA made, by hand, all the details, the steel, all of that, the R&D, the research, the machining, the tooling, the tweaking, all the machine, like all of that, I totally understand why a small maker would have to charge a price like that. I totally understand that. I can get behind that in theory. I don't know if I can get behind that in practice. I don't know if I ever see myself spending over $400 for the large or over $300 for the small. That is a ton of money. This is a really good knife, and I guess this will be my kind of final takeaways. These are really solid knives. There's not really anything that I dislike about this knife besides some really, really nitpicky stuff. It is they are both great knives. They are basic. They are tools. They are made to cut, made to do work with. There are some really good details with the way that this blade is constructed. I truly believe that this would be a lifetime purchase. This is something that is going to last. This is something that you're going to feel okay using. It's a great knife. It's a very, very expensive knife, and it doesn't have any of the flash of some of the other knives that are at this price point. And so, final conclusions, this is a really tough one. I have no idea. Cut or carry, I don't know. I would love to carry these knives. If I had one of these, I would carry it very often. It would probably be one of my top knives, But I don't know if I ever see myself paying this money. Maybe so. Maybe I come around. And I certainly appreciate the work and the effort and all that goes into making something like this. That price is pretty tough for what you're getting here. So final conclusion is both a cut and a carry. I would love to carry one, but I don't know if I'm ever going to. And these are having to ship back out to my buddies pretty soon. But super excited to take a look at them. I've really enjoyed them. It's one of those things, it's like you always see it, and it's really nice to put hands on a knife like this. I have definitely seen kind of what the fuss is about. I buy into it about halfway. I'm definitely not bought in fully yet. But as I've learned with this knife hobby, as long as you give it time, I'm sure that that'll change. Hope you've enjoyed the ramblings of a cheap knife guy, and I'll see you next time.